It's after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1 minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And good morning. Welcome to this edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Also, our 888 Car Clinic number is open for you. It's a little easier for you to remember. 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. Miss Jan is in the house, but she's going to be She's going to be taking it easy on her Saturday mornings after working 5 long days in a service shop with all of the guys around. And she does a great job managing all of the guys, that testosterone, as they say. But I can tell you, she signs the checks, so they get in line whenever she says jump. They say, "How high, Miss Jan?" To that end, Hannah is going to be taking her place as our call screener, and so when you call in, you'll talk this morning to Hannah, so kind of go easy on her. It's her first time at the keyboard, but I got to believe that she's going to do a great job. This segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. One of the 4 batteries will fail. 1 out of 4 batteries will fail this winter. You can get yours tested for free during Super Start Battery Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. And if it does need to be replaced, O'Reilly has the Super Start battery for you. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Okay, 888 Car Clinic, Miss Hannah, 227-2546. That's 888-227-2546. Your calls when I come back. This Vehicle Maintenance Spotlight is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. You can extend the life of your vehicle's battery by keeping terminals free of dirt, grime, and oxidation. This will ensure a clean connection and a strong charge. Of course, even with proper maintenance, 1 out of 4 batteries will fail this winter. Get yours tested for free during Super Start Battery Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. And if it does need to be replaced, O'Reilly has the Super Start battery for you. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better prices every day.
A dead battery can leave you stranded, so get yours tested for free during Superstart Battery Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Need a replacement? Purchase a Superstart Extreme or Superstart Platinum battery and get up to $25 in O'Reilly gift cards after a mail-in rebate. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Let's dive into another car clinic email. Dear Bobby, my vehicle has just gone out of warranty. It has 48,000 miles, and now all maintenance is my responsibility. Can you suggest a maintenance checklist? I'd like to keep this vehicle long term. Assuming your vehicle is about 4 years old and has just under 50,000 miles on the odometer, we suggest starting with the fluids. Think brake fluid, transmission fluid, and of course coolant. The cooling system is often overlooked. While coolant and cooling systems have evolved through the years, they still need service. Have the cooling system flushed and refilled with a proper antifreeze coolant for your specific vehicle, and inspect all belts and hoses. And don't forget the thermostat and radiator cap. Complete the system service with a new Stant Superstat and a new Stant radiator pressure cap. This is a great way to extend the life of all cooling system components and add reliability to your vehicle. Stant products meet or exceed OE quality in both fit and function. Learn more at Stant.com. That's Stant.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle loaded or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, it starts my morning. Happy morning, your name is Folgers Mountain Grow. Now you're here, your aroma helps me wake, and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with today's program, and let me share this with you. We're going to be reaching out to the host of Velocity's Bitchin' Rides, Dave Kindig, a little later this hour. And then next hour, we're going to reach out to Pete Ron, who is the Secretary for the Department of Transportation for the state of Maryland. And part of today's show is going to be addressing the gas tax and the fact that your gas tax dollars, how far do those tax dollars go with regard to road repair and bridge repair and all the parts of the highways and byways that we drive on. It's very important. And the condition of your automobile, of course, depends on how well you take care of it. To be proactive is really important. A lot of times, and this week I've had so many emails from individuals that, and one lady in fact bought a new Fiat and had a question as to what should be done to that car to keep it new and keep it running young. And I sent back a note and laid out a schedule for her. And lo and behold, it was not applicable because it was like a 6,000 mile oil change. And one of the questions was, when should I change the oil on my new car? And of course, the answer there should be no less than 3,500 miles. You need to put at least 3,500 miles on your factory oil. And the reason for that is to give that engine time to break in, although today's engines are more or less the technology and the metallurgy and the fit and finish interior-wise, and I say that that's the tolerances inside and the metals that are used today. You can take an engine right out of the crate and run it wide open. But you would not want to do that. You want to put some miles on the car so the car can learn how you drive. That's right, the car actually does learn how you drive. The transmission will learn, the idle will learn, and this is in the first 200 or 300 miles, but you should give the car 3,500 miles before you change the factory oil. Why? Well, you want to make sure, number one, there are no oil leaks, so you don't want to touch that engine because you could do something wrong, or a finger could be pointed at you that, well, hey, you should have waited 7,000 miles and you changed it at 3,500. That's why it's using oil, because of the kind of oil. So rather than to go there, folks, leave your car alone and let it run 3,500 miles and drive it as you intend to drive it at 35,000 miles. You can be aggressive if you like. I was aggressive on my car because I wanted my engine to be more powerful and to deliver all the power that it could, and the engine and the computer learns that. So 3,500 miles was my suggestion, and then thereafter change the oil and filter every 7,500 miles, or annually if she didn't drive 7,500 miles a year. And so this lady wrote back and said, what do you mean? I don't even drive 3,500 miles a year, so I can't use this information. So therein, I decided that we would go 6 months on the first oil change, and that way she'd have at least 1,000 to 1,500 miles on the engine, and then thereafter change the oil and filter every year. Now, that only applies to a person or a driver or an owner who doesn't drive much in his or her car, and I also suggested that she use synthetic oil. Okay, let's go to Nebraska and talk with Shannon. Shannon, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. You're first caller in, so you're first caller up. Good morning.
Good morning, Bobby. How are you?
I'm terrific. Yourself?
Oh, I'm doing a lot better than I was when I was stuck in Lincoln, Nebraska, that's for sure.
And how did you get stuck in Lincoln, Nebraska?
Well, I had to take my daughter down to the university down there to have dental work done. She had to have oral surgery. And we left, and I had my grandson in the back seat. We're driving along in a 2004 Avalanche, and suddenly the door locks clicked, the lights went on and off, and the car just stopped. No forward action at all. I eased over to the side in a very bad area. It was a very difficult area, a lot of buzzing traffic and so forth.
Yeah, that's always the case.
And, oh, yes, it was. And there was no place to get out, and you're afraid you're going to get hit from the rear and all kinds of things like that. And you have a 4-year-old saying, are we there yet? You know, it doesn't help.
No.
And so we got on the phone and called emergency towing. We said, what are we going to do, you know, to maybe get back to Kearney, Nebraska? And we found out from tow trucks it was going to be $700 just to get back there, even with our insurance. So my daughter got on the phone, and we tried calling tow trucks, and nobody would pick us up and tow us somewhere safe because they didn't have room for all of us in the vehicle. And their suggestion was to call Uber. And I'm going, right. That didn't work. So there we were stuck for almost 2 hours, and finally we got a hold of a tow truck, and it was a company called WeStar, and very nice people. And the young man put us all in the truck and hauled us to a friend of his who was a mechanic. He said, let's see if it's something simple, or let's see what's wrong. So we went to this place called Lincoln Auto Repair, who they were just wonderful. They took the car in. They found out the shaking, because it was some very violent shaking, like trembling with the car. The wires to the spark plug somehow had gotten down on the manifold and made everything kind of stop.
Wow. But
when they checked the car's oil, there was no oil in it.
Really?
Absolutely no oil in it. We looked under. We have a particular parking spot we have. There was never any oil underneath the car. Anything.
So Shannon,
my daughter.
So Shannon, not to interrupt you, but to interrupt you so that we can fast pace because the phones are loading up.
Yes,
so,
I know.
So there was no oil in the engine, and spark plug wire had melted on the exhaust. Was the engine destroyed, or did they put oil and fix your car and get you back on the road?
No, these people put it on the machine, found out that there was a few things wrong, but nothing to stop it from trying to get us home. They did a whole complete oil change, flushed it out, put oil in it, and got us back on the road, recommended us to a place here in Kearney to run it through complete diagnostics, which was Kearney Ag and Auto Repair. And they did it, and they did find down the road that we're going to have a throttle body replaced. but the car ran beautifully all the way back home. No,
well,
problem.
you are indeed.
We lucked out.
You did luck out. You did luck out because engines that are run without oil, I mean, that's the kiss of death. Well, I'm proud of you, and most proud of Lincoln Auto Repair for their rescue of you, and congratulations. And I appreciate your call this morning.
Little tow truck driver was wonderful. That We-Star, they were just got us over there to his friends who have this little mechanic shop, which used to be an old gas station, I guess, on the corner, and they did an excellent job. And very nice people, and referred us to this Kearney Ag in Kearney, and they found out a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be done eventually. But $200 and some change versus $700 in towing.
Well, that's
made a big difference.
Amazing. Well, thanks for sharing that story. That is really refreshing, to say the least. And when you're beside the road, folks, this is the kind of feeling that it gives you, that sinking feeling. And, I'm not without issues with my automobile. I had one recently, but I did not drive it. And I'll tell that story a little later in today's program as time permits. There was a noise in my engine. That noise just appeared within 30 miles. But I didn't like the way that it went from a little bit of noise to a lot of noise, and that was last Friday, so I parked the car and drove the smart car over the weekend, and I'll share with you a little bit later, and we posted on Facebook the pictures of the problems that I had with my car. I had a problem early on at 49,000 miles that should not have happened. Shannon, thank you so much for your call and for sharing the good story, the good news with us. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you, Bobby, and have a great day.
Thank you so much. Well, that's really great. Really terrific. Let's go to Sandy. Sandy, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
I have recently purchased a 2004 Pontiac Montana minivan, which I guess is the same as a Chevy Venture and a Buick and Oldsmobile deal.
Right.
It's only got 90,000 miles on it. It looks like it was garage kept. I love it. But I wondered if there's anything I should look out for, if there are any inherent problems with that line of minivan.
Well, the answer is no. The answer is it depends on the TLC or lack thereof that this vehicle have. You've already said that it was a nice vehicle, but here's what I suggest, not only to you, but to anyone that's, quote, thinking of buying a used car, or maybe that you've already bought the car. Take it to a local service shop there, and I think you're calling from the Daytona area. So, Sandy,
yes.
Take it to...
I have an excellent service guy, and I took it to him before I signed anything.
Oh, great.
For the asking price, he looked it over. He said the brakes are 85% there. The coolant looks good. I had him change it anyhow. He believes it's been well taken care of, so I bought it. But I wondered if down the road, is it going to blow a water pump in?
No, what you're going to have to do, Sandy, is just monitor it. But I say monitor it for the next 3 months, and then take it back to that same technician, ask him to check it. Very good. Let's go to Dave Kindig. Oh, wait, got a break. Don't go away. I'm Bobby Likis with today's Vehicle Maintenance Spotlight, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Here's a crash course in brake parts before you have a crash. Master cylinders distribute brake fluid to wheels. Calipers and wheel cylinders convert pressurized brake fluid into stopping power. Brake pads and shoes protect calipers from friction caused by stopping. To be safe, include your entire braking system in regular maintenance. Visit O'Reilly Auto Parts for a wide selection of quality brakes. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices, every day.
O'Reilly. If it's hard to stop or you hear squealing and grinding noises during braking, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts. You'll find the brake parts you need from trusted brands like Brake Best Select, and Wagner Thermoquiet at everyday low prices. Play it safe with brake parts from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices, every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
We recently talked tire repair with General Tire's Senior Communications Specialist, John Robinson. John talked about when a tire is best suited for repair.
It depends on where the puncture is. If it's on the actual contact patch area, the center of the tire, then depending on how large the puncture is, chances are it can be repaired. If you're in the sidewall area, then you don't want to mess with that side. Those parts of the tire can be dangerous.
John then touched on how one might go about making the repair.
The best way to repair a tire is twofold. You've got the plug, and then you've got the patch from inside inside where you actually take the tire off the rim and you patch it from the inside. That is somewhat rare these days because a lot of times you'll see a plug just push through the tire while it's still on the rim, and that is not ideal.
The Grabber HTS60 provides the perfect synergy of comfort, durability, and performance for your light truck or SUV. The Grabber HTS60 StabiliTread creates a flatter and larger contact patch, which promotes more even wear and longer tread life. Take advantage of the 45-day trial and see what you think. Learn more at GeneralTire.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
I'm 98.
Higher.
Higher, 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Great program today, folks. Call with your car questions at 888-CAR-CLINIC. But first, I have on the hotline the one and only Dave Kindig, host of Bitchin' Rides on Velocity TV. Some great artists work with oil on canvas. But for Dave, iron and chrome are his tools of self-expression. From his sprawling 27,000 square foot custom fabrication shop in Salt Lake City, Utah, Dave and his team use cars as their canvases to create extraordinary works of art for serious car lovers everywhere, including yours truly. Dave, I got to say I love seeing you on television. You guys do a great job. And welcome back, by the way, to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. And congratulations on Season 4 of Bitchin' Rides.
Well, thank you very much, Bobby. That's a heck of an introduction. I'm so proud to have that kind of introduction. So it's my pleasure, and we're going to have a lot of fun this season. I hope everybody's hanging on to their shorts.
Well, I'm sure. If you would, share with our Car Clinic listeners and viewers how you got your start in the auto business. I mean, did you always love cars as a kid? I think that may be a rhetorical question.
Well, yeah. Actually, my first love was insects. And I figured out you couldn't make those. I was designing them and figured out really quick that didn't work. So I went to my second love, which was cars, and stuck with it. So, but yeah, at a very young age, just drawing cars, playing with Legos and Hot Wheels, and later on plastic models. And when I turned 16, started playing around with Volkswagen Beetles, chopping the tops, and watching other people how they would work on cars and basically teaching myself how to do it.
Dave, you first started your business, Kindig Designs, back in '99, and today it's world renowned. How did you manage to attract so much attention to your particular designs?
You know, my philosophy was always to not worry what everybody else was doing, but to just do my own thing, never look to the side, never look back, just always looking forward. And just trying to be unique and doing something that was different, something that was cool, something that would have a classic line. And I've just really, by surrounding myself with great talent, all of the guys and gals that work with us, it's made it very easy for me to continue to build the business by putting money back into the equipment, the people, the size of the building, and so forth, and just basically creating this awesome hot rod machine that is getting all of this world attention. It's pretty cool to go to work every day.
Sounds like it. Bitchin' Rides is now, as I understand, in its 4th season and one of the most popular series on the Velocity Network. How are you enjoying the process? Now, speaking of the process of making a TV series, and another question, have you and your crew gotten used to having cameras all around?
Well, yeah, we've gotten very used to having the cameras around, but they're very respectful of us. They're basically just a fly on the wall. They're capturing what we'd be doing if we weren't filming. And so, the attention that we've got, obviously, from Velocity Channel and Bitchin' Rides, not just in the U.S., but actually in, I think it's 42 or 46 countries across the world, it's pretty cool to be able to have people enjoy what I get to do for a living, and something that we take a lot of pride in, building a great relationship with the client that's paying for the car, creating something that's all of their dreams and something that we dream about as well as soon as we get involved with them. So it's very rewarding, and there's no ends to it. It's funny. It's a feeding frenzy to get a car into Kindigit lately.
I hear what you're saying. We're talking with Dave Kindig, host of Bitchin' Rides on Velocity TV. Dave, what are some of the highlights that viewers can expect in this new season, this fourth season, and what are some of the rebuilds that you can't wait for people to see?
Well, actually every single one of them that you're going to see on season 4 is, we don't do anything that we don't want to do. So you'll see the excitement in every single episode and every build. The first one actually is just a great story. The season premiere is a 2-hour special. It features a 1957 Ford Fairlane 500 convertible that Bob, our good friend over in Colorado, brought to us. He had this car. He had bought it back in 1964. And had been playing around hot rodding it until about 1968. He tore the whole car apart, never to be heard running or driven again until we gave it back to him this year at Hot August Nights in Reno. And it's a touching story because he had so much love for this car, and to be able to build something out of a 57 Fairlane, which is a pretty cool car. There was a couple of big ugly things, such as the front rear bumpers, and you'll see what our take was to make that flow of that car return and to bring out the beauty in it. Color contrast, the build. You better have a box of Kleenexes because it's a touching story.
Wow. What's next for Dave Kindig? Dave, you've had an amazing career. I mean, you're having an amazing career. Are there still some larger goals that you see on the horizon?
Well, yeah, as a business owner and as a designer and a dreamer, you never have reached all of your goals. You need to constantly have goals put in front of you and continue. There's a couple of things that I haven't done in this industry that I'd really like to do, and those opportunities aren't necessarily too far away, I think. But to win the Riddler at Detroit Autorama, that's always been a big dream of mine. Another big dream was the Pomona Grand National Roadster Show. I've never won the Amber, which is America's most beautiful roadster. So there's a couple of things that I'd like to check off of my list, but I'll be patient. They'll come when they're ready, and it'll be for real when we do it. I'm sure there will be. A couple of last questions, Dave. Number one, a website so that we can see more about what's going on in your world of cars, and also the show schedule for this fourth season. Yeah, it's Kindigit.com. That's KINDIGIT.com. Lots of cool stuff, the gallery, the apparel, everything's right there to check it out. And everything kicks off Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern on Velocity Channel, Season 4 of Bitchin' Rides. That'll be every Tuesday at 9 o'clock Eastern. We got 16 episodes this season, so make sure you got some room on the DVR if you're not watching it live. But there's a lot of great builds, and we're going to have a wonderful season. There's so many great cars. It's just incredible. Wow. Congratulations, Dave. Dave Kindig, host of Bitchin' Rides on Velocity TV. Folks, don't miss it. Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern on Velocity. Dave, thanks so much. Congratulations on the ongoing success, and thanks so much for joining us on Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Always a pleasure, Bobby. And, they do some fabulous, really fabulous builds on that show. And all of those shows, I don't know how many folks of you out there that are tuned in to Velocity, but Velocity has a great spread if you're into cars. And even if you're not, just some of the sentimental values that I've seen of cars that you wish that you'd had when you were so young you didn't have any money to buy them. And that's where the classic industry is really surviving and growing these days. Let's go to New York, take a call from John. And folks, your calls at 888-227-2546. John, thank you so much for holding. I got carried away with Dave there. What can I do for you today?
Oh, well, Bob, I got an 07 Dodge Grand Caravan, and it started running rough intermittently, and then it progressively got worse. And the first thing I did, I popped the hood at night, and the spark plugs were arcing a little bit. So I replaced the wires, and then saw really no difference at all. So I went ahead and I replaced the plugs as well. And then after I replaced the plugs, it actually seemed to run worse on me. And none of the plugs looked bad when I took them out either. So So then I moved on to the EGR valve and replaced that, and again, nothing. Then I replaced the throttle positioning sensor, and it ran good. It's so intermittent, it ran good for like maybe 3 or 4 miles, and then it started to run like crap again. And then I ended up replacing the coil pack. And when I pulled the van into my driveway that day, it was running really, really rough. I replaced the coil pack, started up. It seemed to be firing on all cylinders, running nice and smooth. And I took it down the road, and maybe 5, 6, 7 miles later, it started running like crap again.
So you've replaced a lot of parts on it. How many miles on this car, John?
125, 26 maybe.
And the engine is solid, and you've serviced it well.
Yep.
I mean, it's historically,
Yep.
has this been an ongoing problem, or is this in the last month or so?
Last month or so, and it's been serviced well. I did a compression test. I'm good on all cylinders there. I have good fuel pressure. I don't know, and it's boggling me. I'm ready to pull my hair out, and I don't have much.
I hear you. Yeah, you know the first thing that comes to my mind. Of course, I was thinking coil packs as you were talking. So let me understand, of all of the pieces and parts that you replaced, the plugs and the wires, and then the throttle position sensor, and then the coil pack. Did the coil pack make the most difference, and did that last longer than other repairs?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Here's what I suspect. I suspect that you need to look for wiring harness issues, because of all the things that you've touched, specifically the coil packs, they depend on solid connections, and even though the coils put out 100,000 volts, you're only talking 12 volts of input there, so per coil. So what I would do is I would unplug each individual coil pack, and I would look at those individual male-female connectors. And a lot of times we use in the service shop, even if there's no corrosion. Of course, if there's corrosion, you have to use electrical cleaner, and they make little tiny brushes that you can put into the female sockets and clean out. You have to buy those, and I say tiny, they're a 32nd of an inch. And still have little burrs of brush fibers on them.
Like small pipe cleaners, right?
Exactly. Small pipe cleaners. Yep. Thanks. I'll use that in the future. What I would do is I would look at those connectors, and I would any other connector that had to do with injectors at the injectors. Yep. And then I would unplug those carefully, because each one of those plugs, has a little release trigger, and I'll tell you. Caravan, Chrysler, Dodge, American cars are not so bad. Audis are the world's worst. Audi, if you unplug, almost universally, every Audi that comes in my shop, the coil wire connector is broken, and to that end, you can buy just the ends for that car from the aftermarket. And the aftermarket usually doesn't offer parts unless there's a lot of turnover there. And so for the Audi, of course, that's true for any car. But the bottom line, what I would recommend is you unplug and don't even say, I'm not going to fix this car. I'm just going to refresh the electrical connectors. And so unplug them. And then what I like to use is a white lithium grease or something like that. And another lubricant that we use is called Seal Glide. You can buy that at O'Reilly Auto Parts. And Seal Glide is basically made for the slides of calipers and brakes. But it's such a great lubricant that we use it on O-ring seals. I used it on my personal car this week, or at least my ASC lead technician did, Johnny Bars, to seal a pipe that connects a water pump to a cooling manifold. And the bottom line, that's what I'd recommend you do. And then try that and see how it works for you. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Oh, except that I have to go now because I have a little commercial break. When I come back, your calls at 888 Car Clinic. You're moving fast, and you don't want anything to slow you down, especially an unreliable battery. The next time your car needs a new battery, choose one with power frame grid technology inside. It's engineered with confidence to be 66% more durable than other grid designs and provide you with true strength every time you need it. Look for power frame on the outside for true strength on the inside. Visit Advance Auto Parts or CarQuest for a battery with power frame grid technology, or learn more at powerframe.com. That's powerframe.com.
It's Mosquito Awareness Week, and Dynatrap has 3 simple steps to help you stay safe from mosquitoes this summer. 1. Remove standing water in planters and other places water can collect. 2. Wear light-colored long-sleeve clothing and apply repellents when outdoors. 3. Inspect and patch holes in screen doors and windows. Head to Dynatrap.com/Mosquito Week for more tips and tricks on keeping mosquitoes at bay all summer long.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. You heard me talking with John in New York about a Dodge Caravan, and the challenge that he had was that he replaced spark plugs and coil packs and a throttle position sensor and some other parts on his vehicle, and still had an issue. And he and I were discussing the next steps. Now, that doesn't mean that the next step that I suggested is going to repair his automobile, but in the big scheme of things, folks, you can't just start replacing parts on an automobile. Now, think about it. Well, you can do anything you please because it's your money. But the bottom line, when you come to a service shop, you know, you can't say, well, okay, let's put a set of plugs in. Well, that didn't fix it. Okay, let's put the coil. Well, that didn't fix it. And pretty soon, how many parts are you going to replace, and how much labor are you going to pay before the car is repaired? To that end, you can't use a process of elimination. Now, I will say that after 47 years in the automotive service business, there have been times that I said, okay, I'm going to replace this part. I can't condemn it, but I'm going to replace it anyway because that's what I would do if it were my automobile. When you're in that situation, being in the business, then you have to have a great relationship with your automotive technician, and between your automotive, that would be me and my crew, and the car owner. So that's really what this program's all about. It's impossible for me to tell you how to fix an automobile over the air, but I can give you directions and give you buzzwords, and also I can share with you some, not secrets, but things that we do in our service shop that help us help our customers and save them money, because in the long scheme, the big scheme, we want our clients and our customers to come back to us time and time again, because it's easier once you've established a relationship with someone, just like your doctor. You don't want to jump from one doctor to the next, to the next, to the next. Although in that profession, there are individual specialists. So if you need a heart doctor, you go to a heart doctor. If you need a surgeon, you go to a surgeon. If you need an MRI, you go to a technician and have your MRI. That industry is different in that respect, but in our industry, quite candidly, it's more difficult at times because we're supposed to know it all. And there's no one that knows it all about all cars, especially given the fact that the technology is changing and has changed so rapidly in automobiles. Okay, your calls. 888 Car Clinic. There's plenty of time to get in, and I would suggest you do it now. I mentioned that I was going to talk about gas tax a little bit later in the program, and I'll get to that maybe the next hour. We'll talk about gas taxes and highways and roadways. We're going through some really great changes in our local area here on the Gulf Coast, and I'm really proud of that. In fact, the Florida Department of Transportation is spending just under $628 million on road work right here in Escambia County. That's kind of exciting. Well, unless you see all the cones and you say, well, what the road's torn up here. But the good news is that once that portion of the road is repaired, it's better. And no doubt, as I understand, for every dollar that the federal government or the state government or the city spends on a road, $6 is saved on suspension-related products or repairs and services. And that's a question that I'm going to ask Pete Ron and talk to Pete Ron in the next hour, who is the Secretary for Department of Transportation for the state of Maryland, and we're going to talk about gas taxes and the federal budget and the general fund and how that commingles. But getting back to your automobile, 888 Car Clinic. Hannah will take your calls and put you in the queue, and I will be glad to address your calls. 888-227-2546. I want to go back to a call that I had a little earlier in the program that I didn't have the time really to give my final word. That was Sandy in Daytona. So he has a used car. It's a Pontiac Montana, and he took it to his technician in his service shop that he trusts, and they checked it over before he ever bought it, which we call that a PPI, or pre-purchase vehicle inspection. Now, for us, that is probably, other than the annual inspection, which is a takeoff of the pre-purchase inspection. An annual inspection is for our customers who already own the car. A pre-purchase inspection is an inspection, an 80-point inspection for customers or new customers who are looking at a used car to buy. So Sandy said he had had this car looked at, but he was calling me to see if I had any insight to this Pontiac Montana and any history of repairs that I might help him with so that he would be apprised. And in the big scheme of things, whether it's a Pontiac Montana or a Mercedes-Benz or a Ford Focus, the vehicle that you look at today is, generally speaking, they are good vehicles because of technology. And therein lies the to-do for you and for Sandy. He did take it in for an inspection, but I didn't have an opportunity to ask him if he got a report. When we perform a pre-purchase inspection, we've got an 80-point itemized list and in a document that I personally created and we updated for today's cars. On that document, which is on 90-pound paper, so that the technician can hold it and use it to write on and not have a flimsy piece of paper, we give that to our customers as a report. Now, in that report, over to the right-hand side of that sheet of paper, there's a column for comments. So there's 80 points. So let's say that number 41 was an oil leak on the engine. Now, you can tick either yay or nay. I try to make it black or white. Does it leak oil or not? Well, it seeps oil. So if the technician, our technician, sees that the oil pan is seeping oil, not dropping, not dripping, then that really would be under the no. It doesn't need attention. But then if that's number 41, he goes over to the comment lines and puts the number 41 and then writes a couple of sentences or a couple of comments about the fact that should be monitored going forward. That in lies what we call a report and information that you can use not only to see what the condition of the car is currently, but what you might need to address later on. whether it's 3 months down the road, 3,000 miles, or what have you. So, Sandy, that's what I would do if you did not get a report other than a verbal report. So, verbal reports don't cut it. I mean, you know, what's an opinion? Oh, that's a good car, man. It looks great. It's, you know, it's been cleaned, it's been detailed. The engine's been painted or cleaned. That really is not what an inspection is all about. An inspection is about itemizing an overview. Now, granted, we don't take cars apart because those cars that we check for pre-purchase are not owned by the customer that brings the car in. So we don't take anything apart other than the fact that we have to take the rear drums, if they're drum brakes, which there aren't many of those around. But if they're drum brakes, we take the drums off and measure the thickness of the brake shoes. And we also, and there's a line item for that. There's line items for 80 separate components of that automobile to include turn signals, brake lights, stop lights, glove box light, whether or not the heater works, the blower motor, oil leaks, transmission, differential, brakes, and those sorts of, and the headliner. I mean, you know, there's the interior. So those are the things, even to the warning lights that are on, and that's important because if a car had an oil light flashing on it, and you know, you don't have the car, you just picked it up from the used car lot or from an individual, and you're thinking about putting your money in this car, and there's some odd things. Maybe there are things that this is quite common that you don't know because you're not a technician, but the technician would recognize. Never think that it's not to your benefit to have a second set of eyes, trained eyes, looking at that vehicle and giving you an overview, especially when you spend less than $100, at least here. But that's about the average price for a standard cars is $100 for a pre-purchase inspection, and that will pay you dividends upon dividends of return when you drive that car and you sign that dotted line and you write that check for that used car. So just remember that even after a good review of any used car, it's going to take you 90 days before you and that car, you got to date a while before you can really tell if you're compatible. And what that means is how this car starts when it's cold, when it's hot, how it runs on a real hot day, how it runs on cold weather, how it runs when it's raining. Because rain will get into the electrical system of a car that doesn't have sealed electrical plug wires, for example. Even just the humidity that collects overnight. And speaking of humidity, and that's especially true here in the state of Florida. We live in the tropics. When you back your car out of the driveway and your brakes squeal, I mean, just one time in the morning, and then the rest of the day it's okay, that's caused by the humidity on the brake rotors that cause rust and oxidation, even if you can't see it. And you back out, and when you touch the brake pedal, the pads scrub that oxidation off of the surface of the rotors for the first time, and that squeals. Whenever I wash my car, which is about once a week, I detail it. I don't just wash the vehicle, clean the wheels and spray copious amounts of water into the brake calipers to get that brake dust off and what have you. When I'm finished, the last thing that I do on my automobile, I get in the car, back it out of my driveway, and drive down to the cul-de-sac where I live with holding the brakes on. And I'll depress the brakes and let off. And not to burn the brakes because I only go half a block, but to wipe the oxidized rust off of the rotors. Otherwise, when I park my car in the garage and leave it overnight and get ready for Sunday brunch or Sunday church, and I go to back out, the actual pads will stick to and have bonded to the rotors. And I've actually had this happen years ago on a Viper, and I let the clutch out and the car didn't move, and finally when I let the clutch out and the clutch overcame and the power overcame the sticking caliper, bam! The brakes would pop because the brake pad had stuck, and indeed I actually ripped pads loose from the pad backing on my Viper because of the fact that I cleaned that car so well that, and the rotors, because of the material they were made of, rusted, overnight, and the car stuck, and the brake stuck. So that taught me the hard way. And speaking of teaching me, I mentioned earlier today that I want to share with you. You can go to facebook.com/Bobby Likis and check this out. Friday, a week ago, I had a noise in my engine that was minor. By the time I drove that car home, which is 3.7 miles, and then back to the studio Saturday morning for last Saturday's program, and then to lunch and home, which was roughly 20 miles overall, maybe 25 for the trip, the noise progression, the audible noise, was 4 times as loud. And it was definitely a pulley noise on the front of the engine. So I parked the car. And trust me, I had a couple of 100-mile trip to make last Sunday to see friends from Atlanta and that had come to Florida to visit. I did not want to drive the little smart car on the highway, but I did because I knew better than to try to drive my own car with this noise, because I didn't want whatever it was. And sure enough, it was the water pump. Now this car has 49,225 miles on it. The water pump was replaced by the dealer at 6,400 miles. So that meant that I had 40,000 miles on this, 43,000 miles on this water pump. Under no circumstances should you lose a water pump, or I, at 43,000 miles. So just know that if you drive a 5-liter V8 Jag, you need to have the water pump and the pulleys checked and pay close attention, because that seems to be a weak spot in that engine. So I just wanted you all to know that. And also, I want to share with you, now I'm going to shift gears, because I had a gentleman to call me, and he said, Bobby, heard you talking about the super chips and the flashback performance tune, and I've got a 2015 Ram with a Hemi, and it doesn't apply to my car. This was like 3 months ago, and it does. Flashback, it now supports from 15 actually through 17, the 1500 5.7 liter Hemi. And here's how it works. The performance tuner from Superchip, the Flashback, is the #1 selling tuner on the market because it's powerful, it's easy to use, and it adds a whole new element to your driving experience without opening the hood. And folks, here's what has to be done. And you have a couple of options. You have a PCM swap, where option #1, you can cross ship the PCM, and subject to the availability of the PCM, and Superchips will unlock your computer so that you can put that computer back in, your original computer, in your vehicle, your Hemi, and then you can put the Flashback program into that car. Or the option 2 is you can just send your factory PCM to be unlocked and update it with a Flashback. But the bottom line is, there's horsepower, there's torque, there's MPG to be had from your engine without ever opening the hood from Superchip. And I have installed these in several EcoBoost Fords, and every owner have been completely not only satisfied, they come back and they think I'm great. Well, it's not me, it's the Superchip, it's the Flashback. And I would recommend that you go to superchip.com, because they're offering a $25 cash rebate on any Flashback through September 30, which is today. So go to superchip.com for your Flashback, and stick around for the next hour. I want to come back and take your call to 888 Car Clinic. Likis, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated, and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Folks, recently we had a four-cylinder 2014 Nissan Frontier in the shop. The customer said the vehicle wasn't running well, nothing specific, but fuel mileage was down and the vehicle had lost its zip. As he explained, it's a manual transmission, so I know what it should feel like, and it's just not right. The suggested maintenance and ignition service were up to date, and there were no trouble codes. So what was the problem? The answer lies with today's complex engines. While the maintenance schedule was on time, engines today are prone to carbon deposit formation, and fuel system cleaning is a key piece of the puzzle. Professional fuel system cleaning is an option, but a less expensive alternative is the use of a pour-in fuel system cleaner. We use Berryman B12 Chem Tool in the shop. It features Berryman's proprietary high-energy solvent, or HEST technology. We poured a bottle of Berryman B12 Chem Tool into the Frontier, and after just one tank of gas, MPG improved and the vehicle regained its zippiness. For more information, drive to BerrymanProducts.com. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulseford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulseford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemurs. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's vehicle protection program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1 minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And I want to welcome you to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I see that we have Joe from New York. And Joe, thank you so much for holding. You called in early. And what I will do is take Joe's call first as soon as I come back from the commercial break. This is going to be a special hour. We're going to talk a little bit about gas tax and a little bit about highway traffic fund and the general fund. I'll take your car questions. We have a new team player in the house, Hannah. She will take your calls at 888-227-2546, put you in the queue, and I will put you on the air. Also, we're expecting to talk with Pete Ron, who is the Secretary for the Department of Transportation for the state of Maryland with regard to gas taxes and highway taxes. And to that end, we're actually seeing a lot of road work in our own community, and I'm sure that you are as well. This segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you by Super Chips and the new Flashpack F5 Performance Tuners. Folks, you can add horsepower in minutes without even turning a wrench. Drive over to superchips.com for more information. And just for you to know, there's a $25 rebate on any Flashpack that ends September 30. Guess what day this is? September 30. So go to superchips.com and check it out. And stand by. I will take your calls at 888-227-2546 when I come back.
Your car and your life have a lot of moving parts. And your car's battery is what keeps it all going. Here's something to keep in mind. While all batteries may look the same on the outside, it's what's inside that matters. So be sure to choose a battery with power frame technology inside. It's stronger, more durable, and keeps you going longer. That means you can count on a battery with power frame to be there start after start. Here's another reason to feel good about choosing a battery with power frame inside. It's manufactured using the latest sustainable processes. You're moving fast, and you don't want anything to slow you down, especially an unreliable battery. So the next time you need to replace your car's battery, make sure you choose one with power frame technology inside. Look for power frame on the outside and know there's true strength on the inside.
Super Chips performance tuners are a great way to increase vehicle power without even turning a wrench. But don't take my word for it. Four Corners 4x4 owner Jason Klemitsky runs Super Chips flashpack programmers in a number of different vehicles. According to Jason, there are a lot of choices in aftermarket tuning, but we've never had a reason to look outside the Super Chips family. And now, through October 15th, enter the Power Up and Win promotion. You could win wheel tire packages, cold air intakes, and other great prizes. Learn more at superchips.com.
Did you know that birthday parties help build confidence in kids?
Yeah. Did you know that giving kids less sugar before bedtime helps them sleep better?
Oh, totally. Did you know that friendly kids have more friends?
Everybody knows that.
Hey, guys, did you know that most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
I didn't know that.
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right car seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
I want to welcome you to this edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. This is our 26th year for me to host Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We started this program actually on a local cable television channel called BLAB, which stood for Basic Local Audience Broadcasting. And that served us well, and we've helped a lot of you and a lot of car owners out there to better understand the nature of the vehicle that they drive so that you can be proactive and you can make sure that your car, at least do your best to make sure that your car stays in your garage and out of mine or out of your local garage. And that's a good feeling. Although 3 times a year, minimum 2 times a year, you should take your car in to have it inspected. And while it's being inspected, have the oil and filter changed. Now notice I said while it's being inspected, because we don't do oil changes. We do inspections that include an oil change. There's a huge difference there. So you should not have the mindset of a fast in and fast out oil change to get it over with. You should know that it takes about 30 minutes. It does on my car, and it would on yours, because I wouldn't do anything less on yours than I would on my own to make sure that it's roadworthy after some 5,000 to 7,000 miles of driving. So oil and filter changes are not only for new oil and filter for the engine. It's an opportunity to put in a certified shop atmosphere, set of eyes on your vehicle to make sure that it's like an annual inspection for your health or your 6-month inspection for your teeth. Your car needs the same thing. I can't impress upon you that strongly enough. Let's go to New York, take a call from Joe. Joe, thank you so much for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yes, hi, Bob.
Hi, sir.
I called you last Saturday, about my 99 Toyota Camry that had been bucking and hesitating on the road.
Yes, sir.
And I still had to take it in this week to the dealership. And I took it in. They found the code P as in Paul, O as in Olive, 171. and it was good voltage to the map sensor. However, it failed the pressure test. So they wanted $398 for the map sensor. So I found I could get one at a parts place for a lot less than that. It's made by Duralast. It's just the plastic sensor, no bracket, and no harness, anything like that.
Right.
Do you think that might stop the bucking and hesitation? Because according to them, that's all they found.
Well, Joe, here's the, I don't know the answer to that question, but here's the challenge with that question. If they recommend this part and they, after their test, show that this part is defective, even if you have to pay them more, you have some assurance that if it doesn't work, then you can take action and they'll be in the same court as you. Whereas if you go and buy this part and put it on and it doesn't fix the car, you're out that same amount of money and there's not much you can do about it.
They have a warranty of 90 days. Bring it back if it works or if it doesn't work, so forth and so on. They have a good warranty on it. They made sure of that.
I agree, but that warranty is not for you to experiment with their parts. That warranty is if that part that you buy. So you're taking that out of context. That warranty on that part that you buy from that part store is if that part is defective, they will take care of that part. If that doesn't fix it, then that means that you see what I'm going here? I mean, I really shouldn't have to explain this. So you're wrong there. You're wrong. You're wrong. You should pay the money at the dealership and hold them accountable for the repair.
Okay, good.
Unless you're qualified to work on your own car, because Joe, so often what happens when you have electrical problems is there's not just one item that's wrong. With today's cars, the computer measures and has contact with all of the components on the car. So let's say you've got A, B, and C, and A, B, and C are popping up as defective or problematic in the automobile. You wouldn't replace part number C first. You would replace A first because A has a direct correlation and effect on B's operation, which has a same effect on C operation. So I just want you to know that. And I want you to, because I'm trying to protect you from you, if you will. You got it?
Yeah. Well, they told me they'd give me my money back if I brought it back. That's all I know.
Yeah, I hear you. But you're still experimenting with their parts, and whoever gets that part and buys it as a new part after they put it back on the shelf, which they will do, it's not fair.
Oh, okay.
That's my whole point. And see, when we look at electronic part, especially electronic parts, we look at the blades where the part plugs in, and if there are scratch marks on the blade, and there will be, because when you take a virgin part with male and female prongs and you plug it together and unplug it, you will see where the contacts made contact, or else it doesn't work. There's spring-loaded contacts there. So what happens is, it served your purpose, and you went on from there. That didn't fix your car, and you took it back, but somebody else gets that part. Now, they don't know how many times it's been on Joe's car or Jack's car or Jill's car, if you know what I mean. So I just want you to be aware of the proper procedure so that you may pay a little more up front, but you have a better relationship going forward. You got it?
I do, and I didn't want to make it too long, but I did have two other small questions, and I don't know if you can talk about it on the phone or not. One is I've had a K&N air filter for 4 years.
Okay.
I've only had to clean it once.
Okay.
And I was wondering, I heard through the grapevine that the K&Ns let more air flow through, but also more dirt.
Okay, that is not correct. That is
not correct.
No. Okay. I know the technical director for K&N, and that K&N filter uses a waffle, a W-shaped pattern that has a material that catches air and traps air, so that it's just like you running into a. You know, have you ever been in one of those rooms where it's a room of mirrors?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's exactly what a K&N is. It's a room of flannel. With wire mesh, stainless wire mesh, and that air goes into the filter, but it doesn't go through it. It has to turn and go back the other way, and when it does, it has to turn and go back. So every time it turns, it throws the heaviness, which is the debris, into the filter, and the air flows through. So you get better flow, but you also get the filtration. What's your second question?
Can I use a Tornado gas saver on my 99?
Is it a 4-cylinder?
Yes.
Yes. You sure can.
And it's got 100. It has 111,000.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's not. There's no moving parts in that device, and they will work depending. And there's a technical reason for that. I don't have time to go into, but absolutely, because of the large throttle plate on a 4-cylinder, there's not much volumetric efficiency at low RPM, and the Tornado unit is more of it blocks the air because it turns the air, and anything that turns the air has friction and slows the air down. And what happens? It creates like a whistle effect interior. You don't hear this, but it slows the air, and in slowing the air, when you open the throttle, there's more turbulence, and that will increase the off-idle performance, and that will help gas mileage on your particular automobile, but not all. Hey, thanks for your call, Joe. Let's take a call from Raymond in Kansas. Raymond, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yeah, Bobby.
Yeah, Raymond.
I had called you a couple months ago on my 2013 Chevy Silverado HD with the Duramax. Was having all the annoying light and everything that kept popping up to change fuel filter, and I kept changing, and it still never did do the trick. And it finally got to the point she went into the D-rate mode, and I got an appointment at the dealership. They got it in, and it took them about a day and a half worth of diagnostics and reading codes and pulling hair, and I'm sure saying a few other choice words. But they did get my problem straightened out.
And
turned out to be I had a couple of different things. One was the heater and the temperature sensor in the diesel exhaust fluid tank had malfunctioned.
Wow.
And the big one was one fuel rail was screwed up.
Wow.
But they got her done, and she's running like a striped 8.
Raymond, I thank you so much for sharing that. And folks, therein lies what the value of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is. When we have an issue and you have an issue, one of my favorite requests is for you to reach back to me once you get to the other side of a repair so we can share that. Here's a man with a 2013 Silverado that had a drivability problem and replaced those two parts, or had them replaced by a certified technician and corrected his problem. How cool is that? I mentioned a little bit earlier about the Florida Department of Transportation right here in Escambia County, my county, spending $628 million on road work. And I will share this with you. For every dollar spent on road improvements, $6 can be saved on suspension-related repairs. And to that end, that's where your gas tax dollars go. I've invited Pete Ron, who is the Secretary for the Department of Transportation from Maryland, to join us. And coming up, Pete's going to join me, and I have some very interesting questions about your gas tax dollars that I'm going to be asking Pete when I come back. So don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. Recently, we had the chance to talk tires with John Robinson, Senior Communications Specialist for General Tire. Our topic was the use of nitrogen versus air. While there are definitely some benefits to using nitrogen, the conditions must be right. Let's hear from John.
Nitrogen is ideal if you can get the perfect conditions. If you're using nitrogen under not perfect conditions, then you're still going to have air and moisture inside that tire, and it's really not going to give you the benefits. So under ideal conditions, nitrogen is going to give you better balance and better performance for the tire. There's nothing wrong with air, but nitrogen, if you can get those ideal conditions, is really going to give you the utmost ultimate performance of those products.
General Tire's Grabber HTS 60 provides a perfect synergy of comfort, durability, and performance for your light truck or SUV. The Grabber HTS 60 Stability Tread features a flatter footprint, optimized tread pattern stiffness, and improved tread compound. The result is up to 25% more tread life than the original Grabber HTS. Learn more at GeneralTire.com. Time to go to our Car Clinic inbox. Jim in Indianapolis writes, Bobby, I have a 2010 Ford Explorer, and it's taking more than 10 minutes for the engine to warm up, whereas it used to take 6. I hear you guys talking about thermostat. thermostats. What makes them so special? Thanks, Jim. You probably heard me talking about the Superstat in particular. Superstat is a premium-grade thermostat that performs better and lasts longer. The Superstat features heavy-duty springs that help return it to a closed position to prevent cold running. A larger heat motor helps control engine temperature, while a heavier gauge steel housing gives it a high-end feel. Just hold one yourself, and you'll feel the difference. The Superstat is American-made and comes with a limited lifetime warranty. You definitely don't want to compromise when replacing your Explorer's engine thermostat. The Superstat helps maintain proper air-to-fuel ratio, which maximizes fuel economy, keeps tailpipe emissions in check, and provides optimal performance. Learn more about the Superstat at your local auto parts store or at stant.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip.
From Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Folks, over the years, you and I have discussed thousands of automotive repairs and maintenance procedures here on Car Clinic, all designed to help save you money and make your car safer to drive. One of the challenges we've discussed was damage to your vehicles from old, worn-out roads. The fact is, according to the Department of Transportation, that's the DOT, for every dollar spent upgrading America's roads, drivers would save $6 on suspension-related repairs. Damages caused by potholes, ruts, rough highways, old bridges, dangerous highways in general. Today, I've invited Pete Ron, Secretary, Department of Transportation for the state of Maryland, to join us on Car Clinic to address these issues. Secretary Ron, welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you in the house today.
Well, thank you, Bobby. I very much appreciate that. And, you know, I just go by Pete.
Well, Pete, it sounds great to me. I have questions about the gas tax and road repair, but before we get into those details, give our Car Clinic listeners and viewers an overview on two public funds. Number one, the general fund, and number two, the gas tax that feeds the Highway Trust Fund.
Absolutely. General fund is sort of what it means at the federal level. Every state has one as well, and it's essentially where most money goes into that general fund and is then appropriated by Congresses or the Congress or state legislatures. So there's the general fund, and then there are the special funds that are created. And so at the federal level, there is the Highway Trust Fund and the Mass Transit Trust Fund, and those two accounts have specific revenue streams that go into them. And that is, the gas tax is the largest, but there's also taxes that come from, there's gas, there's diesel taxes, there's taxes on large semis, there's a tax on tires, and all of those taxes go into the Highway Trust Fund or the Mass Transit Trust Fund. To just take it one step further, we pay an 18.4 cent federal gas tax or gas tax on every gallon of gas that we pump into our cars. And so 18.4 cents, just under 3 cents of that gas tax goes into the mass transit account. So fuel usage is helping to pay for mass transit in this country. Just under 15.5 cents of the 18.4 is going into the Highway Trust Fund.
Okay, so Pete, to be clear, as I understand, over the years, gas tax revenues were shared with the general fund. So not all gas tax monies collected actually went to repair our roads. Is that correct?
There was a time when there were large surpluses in the Highway Trust Fund, and that while they sat there, they would be used by the federal government for other things. On paper, those dollars were sitting there, but technically, the gas tax has been distributed historically to those two funds. And it's only that when there were balances that were not being utilized, that the actual cash might be used for something else, but the funds were always credited to those two accounts.
And let's fast forward to today. Is it true that the general fund now actually supports the Highway Trust Fund? And if so, what might be the first step to reduce the amount of funds now being transferred from the general fund to the Highway Transportation Fund, as we need to keep our highways in safe repair?
Whenever you start talking about federal appropriations, it's like a three-step process that's Byzantine. It's just, it doesn't make sense to most people. I'm not even sure it makes sense to Congress. But the first thing that has to happen before money can be spent is a committee has to authorize a program of X dollars. And so for highways and transit, there's an authorization for this amount of money. And then the next step is you have to get to an appropriations committee for them to actually appropriate the funds. And so I had it explained to me once that this process is sort of like your father saying, sure, you can have a $25 a week allowance. Now go to your mother and get it. So this is sort of what goes on in Congress. So you got one committee that says the program is this, and then you have to get the money. And what we've been dealing with for quite some time now has been that the authorized level, and these bills used to be 6 years in length, and now they've gotten shorter and shorter. And so what most recently, though, there was a 5-year deal, which was very successful, but it authorized levels of X, and it grew over those 5 years. Revenues into the trust funds has not produced enough to support the authorized levels, and Congress has had to take general fund monies, transferring them into the trust funds to support the amount that had been authorized by the other committees.
Thank you, Pete, and thanks for joining us on Car Clinic today. I believe that you support, and I hesitate to use the word gas tax, but considering, for me, it would be a safety tax when you consider all the potholes and the ruts and the damage done to automobiles. Do you believe in and you support the gas tax increase? Is that just a yes or no?
Well, you know what? Since now versus the previous time I worked or that we visited, I actually work for a governor, and my position needs to be the same as my governor's. My governor does not support tax increases or fee increases, but I can tell you that the federal gas tax has not been increased since 1993, and there is a huge gap today of what the purchasing power is of those dollars versus now 25 years later.
Well, I can only imagine.
It's significant. But what we are also seeing, and I'm seeing this in Maryland, and it's going on all over this country, is that the vehicle miles traveled on our system has, since the recovery of the recession, been growing significantly at 3.5% a year, which is big. For us, what we've been seeing is we've been growing about 1 billion miles a year in additional traffic on our roads, so that we are now over 52 billion miles traveled on Maryland's roads. So normally you would see your gas tax revenues would be growing right along with it. But what we're facing is that the efficiency of our cars today, and it's not just electric or even hybrids, it's all cars, and I suspect most of your listeners, when you've bought a car recently, in all likelihood, it's getting better mileage than the car you replaced.
Oh, no doubt. Absolutely.
So what we're seeing, I'm sorry, Bobby. So what we're seeing is that our revenues now are flat, even though we're seeing this pretty sharp curve of more driving going on, and that can't continue forever. We're going to have to figure something out as some way to still pay for our roads that people are driving on.
To that end, that brings me to just a couple of more questions for you. And number one, how much increase in tax would it take to solve the shortage that exists today, considering that new cars get better gas mileage? And then the second question to how much would it take to solve this shortage is, how do we make up for the loss of gas tax on EVs, on electric vehicles?
So the last report I saw was that roughly 15 cents per gallon would need to be raised as a tax to close this gap between what the trust fund has been producing and what is being appropriated. But it's important to keep in mind is that if you raise it 15 cents, all you're doing is replacing the general fund money that has been going into the trust fund. So it would maintain where we are at from an appropriation standpoint, but you would raise a tax and then not see a huge amount of new benefit because all you're doing is filling in the gap. But that number is 15 cents from what I have seen. Georgia has now put in place 2 indexes to their state gas tax, and one of those is to index their state gas tax to inflation, and the second one is they are indexing it to the average fleet economy of those cars registered in Georgia. And so that as those cars become more efficient, it will index the gas tax to at least hold it harmless and retain the purchasing power of that tax. So it's an interesting approach, and it's a way that I think they will be able to basically keep the gas tax on life support for quite some time.
Do you see, Pete, that other states will follow Georgia if that model works so well?
You know, I think it will. I think you'll see several states do that. But again, in Maryland, my governor would not support any change to the type of taxing that represented more tax. I need to be extra clear on that. But I think there will be states that are going to look at the Georgia model, and I think, as I say, it can keep the gas tax viable for I think a substantial amount of time. Now, you ask about EVs. What about these electric vehicles? And right now, electric vehicles are still a very tiny percentage of the auto fleet. But everything that's going on out there is all the manufacturers are coming out with electric vehicles, and as they come up with extended batteries, they're going to become more popular. And at that point, I don't know if we just end up having to do a flat fee for an electric vehicle that would be the equivalent of what an average car would pay in fuel taxes. So probably something in the range of an annual tax of $120, $150 would result in about the same contribution that most state gas taxes contribute.
I understood, and I see definitely, when you consider that there are so many countries, in France, in Germany, in 2030, no longer will you see internal combustion engine automobiles on the new side of the cars. And so they've already shifted, and China recently implied that they would follow suit in the future. So we may be 25 years, our conversation may be 25 years ahead of its time, but the fact is, as you said, we have to stay even here. And to do so, we have to address those issues. And folks, I just want to share with you on Secretary Ryan here, one of the things that his job is a big responsibility for providing a balanced, reliable, safe, efficient, and affordable transportation system that's essential to all of the consumers and the businesses in Maryland. And with 11,000 employees, not to put you on the spot, Pete, but give us an insight on how to manage 11,000 plus employees for the state of Maryland.
Well, I think you use the key word there is you lead them, you don't manage them, right? I very much enjoy being associated with a Department of Transportation. This is my actual third state that I've been a secretary of, and for some darn reason I keep saying yes to these jobs just because I enjoy them so much.
Well, Pete Ron, Secretary, Department of Transportation for the state of Maryland, thank you for joining us here on Car Clinic. And there you have it. That was Pete Ron. So I'm going to come back and take your calls. I see that Tom and James and Bob, very interesting folks, and it's your money, it's your car, and we're going to make sure that it's all good. We recently performed a brake job on a 2012 Ford Escape, and while there are several critical parts to an effective, safe, and lasting brake job, you should always start with a thorough cleaning. Using a quality aerosol brake cleaner will ensure that the surfaces are clean and residue-free. Our choice is Berryman's Chlorinated Brake Parts Cleaner, the first VOC-compliant chlorinated brake cleaner available in over 20 years. Berryman's Chlorinated Brake Parts Cleaner is the strongest carb-compliant brake cleaner on the market. It effortlessly dissolves brake fluid, brake dust, grease, motor oil, power steering fluid, and other harmful contaminants. And be sure to thoroughly clean both sides of the brake rotor and all metal-to-metal mounting points before you apply the silicone brake lube to sliders and contact points. Use Berryman's Chlorinated Brake Parts Cleaner to remove any oily fingerprints or other contaminants from the friction material faces. If left untreated, these impurities could lead to poor brake performance and shorter brake life. Learn more about Berryman's Chlorinated Brake Parts Cleaner at BerrymanProducts.com. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I hope that you had an opportunity there to hear that last conversation that I had with Pete Ron, who is the Secretary for the Department of Transportation in the state of Maryland. We will post that following this program today on our YouTube because the information I feel is really important. It gives you a little insight as to monies collected and where that money goes, and to that end, I'm going to go back to the phones, but before the end of this hour, I want to share with you information that I have with regard to what it costs to make a new highway and per mile. And so it's really interesting. So when you and I drive cars and we see all these cones and all this construction, what is going on here? This is what a hassle. But hey, that's our dollars being spent for the betterment of our transportation needs. Your car will love it, trust me. Let's go to James, who has a carburetor question about a race car. Well, this is interesting. We go from stock cars and highways to race cars. James, thank you for holding.
How's it going today?
Terrific. How about you, sir?
That's great, Bob. I'm just a small Polk County pool boy here that likes to ask you questions sometimes, and I do appreciate you taking my call.
Thank you.
I had a conversation with a friend of mine that told me that he preferred carburetors over fuel injection. I asked him why. The answer was because the wide open throttle over a fairly limited amount of RPM range makes a carburetor better or just as good as an EFI. And I didn't understand what he meant. And it was like saying, okay, he knows that there are classes, like say when you're doing racing, that they say that they only allow carburetors in, as far as the race. The rules state that the classes are, say, carburetors only, so that way it makes the race fair. I said, yeah, but he said, though, that the carburetor, you can tweak it. If you're on the side of the road, you can be able to take care of a situation where these new cars, you can't just do that. You got to take them to a shop and have them repaired.
Well, you're talking two different. But James, he's playing. He's incorrect.
Is he playing words on me,
He
or
is playing
what?
words. He is playing, because what you talked about was first a carburetor, and you talked about airflow and fuel flow of carburetor. At least that's the way I caught it to start with. And then you switch to repairs of today's electronic cars. Let's park the repairs aside, because we all know that it takes more money to fix a car today, just like it takes more money to fix a road today. So let's put that aside. But under no circumstances will a carburetor equally distribute fuel to cylinders the way a fuel injection would, and here's why. Let's say that you and I are sitting around a table of 8. We have 8 cylinders. Well, the table is, let's make it round, so we're all equidistant from where we're going to pour the fuel. We have a trench carved in the table, and we're going to pour the fuel in the center bowl of the table. And in that bowl, we have equal trenches, and they're all level. And we're going to pour the fuel. Except that we're going to put the fuel in the middle, and we're going to hope that the fuel gets to each of us in the same exact amount. You see that picture I'm painting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, in a V8 engine, the bowl is not in the middle of the table. In a V8 engine, the bowl is in between, if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8, it's between 2 and 3, and 5, 6, 7, and 6, and 5 and 6, because the runners from the intake manifold, the trenches that we carved on the table, we're closer to the carburetor. That's why intake manifolds have double plane and single plane, and that's why intake manifolds have runners that and headers have runners that go straight off of one cylinder because it's going to the outlet, but then an outlet that's closer to that outlet, a cylinder, you have to have a pipe that's longer, so you have equidistant pipes so that you have equal airflow. Now, to that end, and I'll make this short, everybody blink your eye. Blink your eye. That's 0.2 of a second. A fuel injector, electronic fuel injector, is open 3 milliseconds. 0.2 is 200 milliseconds. So 3 milliseconds is the blink of an eye, is compared to 200 milliseconds, is the length of time an electronic fuel injector is open, and it measures the precise amount of fuel that goes into a cylinder. And to that end, in a period of 0.6 of a mile, or a mile, when you have a fixed orifice injector and you have a fixed pressure of 40 psi, and you blink that injector 1,236 times, and you cover 0.6 of a mile, it has put so much fuel through, and that's how the computer measures the instantaneous gas mileage. There's not a flow meter on the car. And so that's how close and precise. So there's not a carburetor, especially street-wise, there's not a carburetor that can put the exact amount of air and fuel into each cylinder, and that's always been a problem, and that's why race cars have specially prepared intake plenums and runners to try to equalize that fuel. But in the big scheme of things, when you start getting into today's 850 horsepower small block Chevrolet engines that they run on NASCAR at 9,500 RPM, they run fuel injector because the injectors put the fuel in equally, and the air just has to flow. And you can flow air to a different cylinders the same, whereas you can't flow a heavier liquid. You got it?
I understand that, Bob. I do appreciate you clearing that up for me.
All right.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. So there you go, folks. That's the difference between carburetors and old things and new things. Let's go to Bob, who has a Toyota Tacoma. Bob, thank you for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
All right. I've got an 04 Tacoma that I've had since new, and I don't drive it very much. The other day, I'm pretty mechanical. I work on all the cars around here.
Okay.
I started it up, drove it a little bit, came back. Battery light came on, which is telling me the alternator's not doing its job.
Mm-hmm.
But if that was at idle, when I hit the throttle a little bit, the light goes away.
Right.
Shut it off, opened the hood, got my ohm meter on it. Battery was 12.5, and when it was idling, it wasn't doing its job.
Right.
A little bit faster idle, the light went away, and it was doing 13 or 14.
Okay.
So it was working. Yesterday I did it, and it took me probably about 1,800 RPM to get that light go away.
Wow.
So, and my point is, I've never seen that before. What I've seen is the light come on, the alternator's no good, and has to be replaced. Yesterday I turned it off, turned it on, and no Christmas tree for the battery light.
Okay, what is your question?
My question is that definitely the alternator, or probably the voltage regulator?
Well, probably a combination therein, but you would it's probably a combination of both. In other words, you've got a wear factor in the alternator, so it may be that the alternator is not putting out what it's supposed to put out, but it could be the voltage regulator. I've had Mercedes in here, specifically some of the I forget what year that was, but let's say 2012, 2010 Mercedes that had an issue with the battery light, but that issue would stay there, and we replaced the regulator because the regulator cost X and the alternator and regulator cost triple X. So we saved our customer a lot of money by replacing the voltage regulator only. But that's just an idiosyncrasy of that particular automobile. For you, you could, if the regulator is piggyback, as it was on the Mercedes, you could replace the regulator. But then if that didn't repair the automobile, you'd have to replace the alternator, which probably would, well, not probably, it would come with a regulator. So you might be able to buy the regulator standalone, but you won't be able to buy the alternator without the regulator. So you may as well replace the assembly. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. No, my plan was to replace the old thing.
Okay, I'm with you. We're on the same page.
The good old days of standalone regulators.
Yeah.
I got 3 old VW buses.
Oh, you're talking good old days. I hear you. I hear you, Bob. But you know, but the bottom line is, you got to replace the assembly.
Oh, I agree there. But what do you think? Because that's shot. That's why when I turn on the car without starting the engine, all the lights light up, but the battery light does not light up now.
Wait, you didn't say that. The battery light doesn't light up when you turn the key on and the engine off?
That's right.
Oh, that's wrong. That light should light up, and that could be a definite problem within the alternator itself. You could have or you could have a wiring problem.
Yeah, I thought about that.
Yeah.
No, what cued me in real quick is that the light went away, like I said, about 1,800.
Right.
And then it went away at idle again. I said, the voltage
that's
working. But I went on the voltmeter,
right,
and it was still showing the same. I turned the car off, turned it on without starting it, and the idiot light for the battery did not come on.
Yeah, I would say replace the alternator assembly. That way you'd have a warranty, and you would have some assurance that your efforts and the money you spent would solve the problem. Of course, that's a given that you're going to replace or clean and service all the connections at the same time. Hey, thanks for your call. It's very interesting, Bob, and good luck. Let me know when you get to the other side how it reacted to the replacement assembly. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, man. Let's go to Tom in New York, and then I'm going to go to Ben. Tom, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for holding.
Hi, thank you for holding, or for answering
welcome.
My call.
My pleasure.
I have a 2000 Sierra, GMC Sierra, with a small block engine, and the problem just occurred yesterday that I seemed to have lost the higher gears, and I was able to bring it home in second gear.
Yes, sir.
It wouldn't upshift.
Yes, sir. You're going to find, you're probably going to find that you need a transmission in that vehicle.
Okay.
That's what happens. I've had that happen on a half a dozen of that. What year is that? Is that Sierra 2000?
Yes.
And you probably have 90,000 plus miles on it.
A little less than 70.
Okay. You're looking at a transmission. Let me just quickly share this with you. There's rebuild, reman, and an overhaul. Overhaul and rebuild are the same thing. That's where a local service shop or a national chain might take your unit out and replace the clutches and seals and what have you and put it back together. That is not a new transmission, or it's not a reman. A remanufactured transmission is one that has all the pieces and parts replaced that are worn, like the rebuild, except they also machine all of the surfaces to make them as original specifications. So my option on a transmission repair would be to either A, go with a used transmission that has a warranty of a year, and it's going to cost you an extra $1,000 over what the normal price would be for that warranty, or to replace your unit with a new one from GM, which, by the way, they have good prices at dealerships on those, or a remanufacturer from a national remanufacturer, so you get a national warranty. That would be my opinion. Glad you called, Tom, and thank you so much for your comments. Let's go to Ben in New York. Ben, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Your turn.
I have a 2004 Chrysler Concord Limited with 207,000 miles on it, and it still runs fine, but the transmission hangs in third gear. Now, I had a solenoid pack put in it.
Right.
And does that have anything to do with speed sensors?
Well, they're all that has to work in unison, because the speed of the vehicle and the speed of the particular transmission and engine are all measured so that they mesh depending on the load and the throttle position. So all of those are that's just, yes, so just like making a cake. I mean, all the ingredients, and when you mix them and when you get through, you got one cake, but you got a lot of products that go into it to make it, like oil. You know, the ingredients in oil, people say, well, all oil's the same. Oh, not, because it's the ingredients that make the difference in the quality of the oil and or the application. So does that help you?
Well, here's my problem.
Okay.
The reason I had that done was because it hung in third gear.
Okay, that fixed it.
Okay, and you had to go almost 40 miles an hour to make it shift to fourth.
Got it.
And when you're in the city, that's hard to do sometimes.
Yeah, but did that fix the problem?
So that's why they replaced the solenoid pack, you know, and
so Ben, my question to you is, did that fix the car?
You don't understand what I'm saying? It's
your car wouldn't shift, and you had to go to 40 miles an hour, and they put a solenoid pack.
Solenoid pack in it, yeah.
Did
but
that
it didn't correct it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all I want.
Which is, you know.
Okay, so go back. Go back to those people and say, what you did not correct this. Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
You got it?
When they say solenoid pack, would that also mean speed sensors?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
No, that's all. The speed sensors are exactly what their name implies. They tell the computer how fast the car is going, just like an ABS or traction control. Each individual wheel has a speed sensor that tells the computer how fast it's going, so that when you're in a panic situation and you nail the brakes and one of the rear wheels stops, the rest of them are going 35, 40 miles an hour, and one's going 0. The computer says, oh, okay, that's impossible. So the computer will pump and release the right rear brake if that's the problem. So go back, and I'm glad you called me.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir. Folks, I said I would share this with you, and I want to take the time to do this. This is from the Pensacola News Journal, Greg Pakowski. The American Road and Transportation Builders Association estimates it costs between $2 and $3 million per mile to build a new 2-lane undivided road in a rural area, and between $3 and $5 million in urban areas. Construction of a new 4-lane highway costs an estimated $4 to $6 million per mile in rural and suburban areas, and $8 to $10 million per mile in urban areas. I share that with you because Pete Ron, Secretary, Department of Transportation for the state of Maryland, and I had a conversation about gas taxes, and you can find that conversation at YouTube/Bobby Likis, or just go to Watch Bobby Live and you will see it following this program. Thank you. Next week, same time, 10 to noon Eastern. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
What can open and close hundreds of times a day on your vehicle? Your vehicle's thermostat, which performs two critical jobs: accelerates engine warm-up and regulates engine operating temperature. With so much at stake, like engine wear, fuel efficiency, emissions, and cold weather drivability, choose the thermostat professional installers choose. Stant. Stant's Superstat is premium grade and features a heavier gauge stainless steel housing and larger heat motor for optimal temperature control. For more Superstat advantages, visit stant.com. That's stant.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P-Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, loaded, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain